Hey, I'm Will with Cardboard Minutes, and I've got here with me Fran and Nabil. You've seen them around on some of the playthroughs and discussions, and we're going to have a little chat about house rules today. So, I mean, we have some differing thoughts from house rules, some opinion, definitely some strong opinions, so we're going to break that down, as well as maybe give you some examples of house rules that we have found do work, whether you choose to accept those or not. Feel free to write in the comments any house rules that you found have really improved the games that you've worked with or played before, or ones that, maybe you won't play without. So I guess first topic would be, obviously house rules make the games better. In theory.
That's why you have them. That's because you want to enjoy the game more than you would if you use the rules as presented.
Yeah, so that make them more to your taste.
So that's the goal, right? Is to better an existing game?
Yeah. Maybe not. Better is so subjective. It would be, for me, it's to improve my enjoyment of that game. Whether does that make the game better? I don't know. That's subjective, like I said. So
better, is the other thing. The other way that it's very subjective. The other reason it would be to make the game perhaps more palatable in terms of difficulty level. Is what I was going to say. So some games come with such an extreme difficulty, like you can't even beat the beginner level, the intro scenario, if you will. I have a couple examples of that.
I definitely have examples of that.
Too, which we can get into. But like, if the game is so hard...
We'll name one.
Well, Lord of the Rings, the LCG. Okay. And that game is notorious for having a very, very hard threshold for difficulty. And a game where you need to custom deck build and things of that nature. Since the game has been released, the designer has come up with a official kind of easy mode where you can increase your starting resources. You can cull some cards from the encounter decks that have higher difficulty, so you can have a slightly easier deck.
But you could house roll in easy mode.
But you can even house load in easier mode, because even on that easy mode, I find it's a super challenging game where it is. It's a very
come on, get good for it.
Or I need to get good. I just need to get good.
Full deck building guides.
So that's one example where you can just house roll. But then if you play with purists or folks that enjoy that game to its like purity, they'll be like, "What are you doing?"
So coming to purity, then, right? If a game is not as you like it at the time of purchase, would you how do you feel about house ruling it then? Right? Because there's some argument for the designer should have made it better, or made it to appeal to broader tastes. But again, this is kind of subjective, because is it up to your taste? Is it your fault that the game is not working for you, or did they maybe not test it enough for the game to really work?
And the other argument against that is that maybe the designer intended it to be that way, and that's their sort of artistic vision. So who am I to say that artistic vision is bad? Out and out. Maybe it's not to my taste, right? But
at the same time, this is also a business.
Yeah.
And if they make a game that the majority of people feel they need to house rule.
Yeah.
And so we're going to bring up Dark Souls.
Oh, yeah.
For example, is infamous for being...
There's a couple of examples that I have with Dark
Souls.
Too
grindy out of the box.
Yep.
And for what I think was... I could probably say the vast majority of the community who have backed that game all agreed on that and have started spitting off house rules, whether it be double souls or stacked decks.
I think probably only the hardest of hardcore Dark Souls fans will play the game as is, rules is written, and still enjoy it.
Yeah.
I love Dark Souls. I've played every Dark Souls game. I've beaten them several times. I'm a huge Dark Souls fan. Yeah. But that game is too grindy.
It's so hard.
It's too grindy. It's not even that hard.
Well, yeah, it's just you have to grind too hard to level up, yeah.
So, for those of you that don't know, it's a dungeon crawler based on an IP of a video game, very popular video game series, Dark Souls, right? And those video games are known for their difficulty, but are also known for being extremely rewarding, so much so that they birthed a whole genre of video games. Several years ago.
Souls-like games,
Soulsborne games, whatever you want to call them. But in board game format, this particular game, you set up a dungeon. You go through the dungeon. You have to, and then you fight a mini boss. And to get to that mini boss, you have to grind through that dungeon several times to upgrade enough to be able to beat him.
Right.
And that process alone takes maybe 2.5 hours. And then after the mini boss, you set up a brand new dungeon.
Do it all over again.
And then you have to grind through that dungeon to get to the main boss. And that also takes a couple hours. Yeah. Granted, it gets easier as you go on, and you can fight stronger and stronger monsters.
And there were multiple reasons why that was a thing.
And that is how the video game is, right?
But the board games are not
video games. Are not video games, exactly. So, I played through it once, and I found, I said I'm not playing Rules is Written ever again,
Right.
So,
and now they have already announced that they're coming out with 2 new core boxes, as well as a revamped core box that completely changes the way the campaign unfolds to remove that grindiness.
Yeah.
So, did they create a broken product in the first place? If they have to go back and change it,
rectify it
that heavily, and I'm not talking about fixing a printing error, or including some extras, but they have to
completely reworking the entire
leveling
up system and XP system and the core system. The core system of the game. I don't know if I'd say it's broken, but it's certainly
undesirable.
It's you're not really appealing to a wide audience,
right?
You're appealing to people who already know and like the video game, and who have 5 hours to play through an entire game. I don't have 5 hours to play through one entire game.
Right.
I'd rather play 2 or 3 games in that 5 hours and play through one game.
But that's preference.
That's a preference for me. But I liked the game enough to explore some house rules, where you collect more souls depending on the difficulty of the monster, and it made the game better. But it still took a long time to play.
So house rules in this case would be a positive thing because it made a game you wanted to love into a game that you at least liked more
exactly
than it was.
And you kind of have to stack the item deck so that items that your character would actually use would be closer to the top. Otherwise, you're just
there's
paying the souls paying lots of souls for items you're never going to use.
There's so many rules in that game in order to make it better. That it was almost a whole new rule book.
And the thing is, I find it frustrating because they're not, me being the average house gamer who doesn't have any knowledge of game design. I figured this out on my own. How would this game be more fun?
Yeah.
It was not that difficult to come to those conclusions that, hey, maybe I need more souls to level up faster. Maybe I need to stack the item deck.
Well, in terms of games that are not working for the majority of their target audience, I would blame, without knowing exactly insider details, I'd probably blame an environment that is more insular for testing.
Yeah.
And I think Steamforged was guilty of this for Dark Souls, because before the game released or announced or kickstarting, before it hit crowdfunding,
right,
all of the examples and demos at conventions or things they sent out to YouTubers for content were based on individual boss battles with pre-built characters.
And that part of the game is phenomenal.
That's the enjoyable part.
And that was the most
right?
fun part.
Yeah.
But then when people got the game,
it takes so long to get there.
It was
long.
It was a
long.
It was a poorly developed mess. And is it because they didn't test enough?
Yeah.
Possibly. Another great example of this would be Tainted Grail from Awakened Realms.
I haven't read that one, but I've heard that. Yeah.
And they've had some other games that have the same complaint. But Tainted Grails would be an example of a game that was, again, too grindy. People felt like they were not making progress through the story and doing a lot of repetitive actions that were unfun.
Yeah.
And they wanted to get to the fun stuff.
Yeah.
And so people house ruled the snot out of it to just straight up, we're going to ignore this part of the game.
And to get to the fun part
just to get to the fun part.
Yeah.
To the point that now Awakened Realms is doing a second box with a revamped rules.
There you go.
For the original that fixed that problem. So again, same thing. If it, why house rule it if they broke it to begin with, right?
Well, see, there's 2 things to that. So one is listening to the community feedback. If there's enough there's always a small but vocal minority, but if there's enough people that play your product and complain about the same thing over and over, that means that something in the design was flawed, and now you're fixing it, which I appreciate when designers do that, but that means house ruling was required in that front.
Or maybe designers didn't take criticism well.
Sometimes.
Could happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And it's not a personal attack on the designers.
No.
Both those companies have made amazing stuff.
Yeah.
That is loved by many.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's one, and the other one is the game is being played in your house. So if the players around the table all agree on that rule,
Then what's the problem?
What's the problem? You're all here to enjoy the evening, enjoy the game, and if you feel that making a slight change to the tweak to the rules, improves your enjoyment.
Yeah.
You're not in a competitive worldwide tournament of the game. People don't,
and frankly, I don't know. No one likes playing with a rules lawyer.
Yeah.
I don't.
No. If you all agree that this rule that's how we're playing the game that evening, that's how we're playing the game that evening. So it's not a big deal.
I mean, at the end of the day, anything that gets your games to the table makes it more likely to get your games to the table.
That's true.
I think it's a positive thing.
100%.
And if that means house ruling a game to make it more palatable and more manageable in terms of time for you, do it.
Done.
So let me throw this idea out. If you when you're buying a game, because we spend a fair amount of money on each individual game.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Right? I don't mean less personally. I mean gamers in general.
It's a huge industry.
Increasingly so these days.
We are paying more and more money for a single box game.
Yep.
That we expect to, be our little bundle of joy that we're bringing home from the store.
Be a finished product, right?
To be a finished product. And, tastes aside, and preferences aside, if the game is broken, perhaps something like whether there's a printing error, like a recent game we just played.
It's an older game, but yes, it's we played it recently.
What was the name of that game?
Flow of History.
Flow of History.
Flow through history or flow of history?
Had enough printing errors that, that was kind of beyond the house ruling. It was an error.
It was an error,
The game was broken. It was, as rules written, it was broken.
But just in general, if you bring that game home, you spend a lot of money and investment and maybe even research into whether you want to play that type of game or not.
Yep.
Anticipation, and then it doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
But not because... I think we've played enough games we can kind of recognize when a game is not for us, but it's still a good game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or whether a game is broken.
Yeah.
And is just a broken game.
Yeah.
So when you've done all this to get a game and find out it's broken, does it, even though you could house rule to fix it, does it not somewhere in the back of your mind just kind of sour the experience a little bit?
I paid so much money for this. I shouldn't have to fix this product.
Yeah.
It should work out of the box.
Out of the box.
Just like any other product you buy.
Yeah.
Even if the house rule magnifies the fun in that game to a point where you do enjoy it now.
Right.
I feel like
that's not what the designer intended, right? That's you're changing the game so that it's not what originally was purchased. Now you're making your own rules.
Personally,
that's one way to look at it.
I don't factor what the designer intended into my decision to house rule or not.
Yeah.
For me, am I more likely to play this game with these house rules, and is the game more fun?
Yeah.
And to your question, when do you...
does it dwell on you that this game was flawed to begin with?
I think it depends, first of all, in order to actually spend the time coming up with house rules or looking them up online and then testing them to see if they work, I have to really like either the IP, the theme,
concept of the
or
game.
something in that game to make it worth my time to try and quote unquote fix that game for me.
Well, sure. There's a limit. Taking Monopoly and then completely reskinning it.
Well, that's
which I've seen people do. I saw one gentleman walk into our board game meetup a couple of years ago with his personalized copy of Monopoly.
Okay,
and he was like, "This is not Monopoly. I've changed so many rules that it's like a brand new game.
It's no longer.
Okay, then why?
But then it's not.
Buying a Monopoly?
But then it's not the game anymore.
Yeah.
That's almost something different.
There's only one place Monopoly belongs. That's in the trash.
I've heard him say that.
That's my opinion, personally.
I will say one thing though, that the games, for myself personally, I like to think that the designer and the company has play tested the game enough so that especially when it's maybe like a solo or beat your own score type game, I want to be able to challenge myself to beat the game or beat the score as intended by the designer, and not to come up with rules myself so that I make it easier or make it more achievable to hit those, beat your own scores or beat the AI with modified rules. I want to be able to accomplish the challenge that is intended, and if I need to fix that, then it's like I'm ruining the experience for myself. So that sometimes that does weigh on me, to your point.
Yeah.
But if it's a multiplayer game and you're playing it with folks that all you want to have a fun time with them, if you want to modify the rules.
So to that point, we both love Marvel Champions.
We do.
I haven't played this particular box, but Galaxy's Most Wanted.
I've heard a lot of people say it's very hard.
It's notoriously difficult.
Yeah.
I haven't played it.
I haven't played it either.
But would you house rule that or no? Because it is kind of like a beat the scenario sort of thing.
It's beat the scenario, right? So that would be the same going back to the Lord of the Rings kind of scenario where do you want to make the game a little bit easier so you can enjoy beating the game, or do you
even just getting to the next scenario?
Or do you feel like losing the first scenario over and over and over again until you finally make it through and get that? Is it frustrating? It kind of removes the enjoyment of the game. So that's kind of up to you on how you want to play that scenario, right? So I could go either way. Personally, I would prefer that those types of games it be achievable enough that you can kind of overcome it with smart play.
Yeah,
rather than
ideally, ideally out of the box.
Out of the box, it's beatable.
Okay, what about things that fix the game later?
Yeah.
So they came out with an expansion that requires you to purchase it to fix the game.
See, I don't like that.
Or another character.
That's play to win, right? But
what if they release a character that is seems custom built to
fight that scenario?
Yeah.
And LCG models are kind of they release upgraded player cards and stronger player cards in future scenarios, which when you play them, to go after earlier scenarios or even later scenarios, then it's easier to win with those cards, and that's kind of like a microtransaction kind of it is situation where you want to have the best cards in order to succeed, and that's kind of not really fair. So
that definitely leaves a bad taste in my mouth when I'm forced to pay more money to beat a game that I've already paid for and that should be winnable out of the box as designed.
Okay, I'm going to stop both of you there because Champions of Midgard is Fran's number one favorite game.
I love that game.
Yeah,
spoilers.
It's up in your. It's up high in yours.
It's up there.
It's up.
And I think all three of us will swear by the Valhalla expansion.
I won't play without it.
Yeah.
Fixing the fact that you could horribly get unlucky on dice rolls, and it will ruin your experience of the game.
See, here's the thing, though. I like that game so much.
I'd play the base game.
I'll play the base game on its own.
So
With my wife Margot also loves Champions of Midgard, but she doesn't like the Valhalla expansion because she finds that extra layer of strategy is a bit too much.
The rules overhead.
It makes it a bit more complex than what she likes, than where she likes to play, which she likes to play. So I'm happy to play the base game with her, and even if I do, my entire game hinges on one dice roll that goes horribly wrong, I'll still have a good time playing that game.
That's fun, yeah.
If I'm playing it with you guys, or people who are at who like a bit more complexity in their games, I will play with Valhalla.
Always, and I think we would all agree to that, right?
And not because I think it fixes the game, even though it does.
It does. It makes it way better.
I will admit that, but it's because it adds an extra layer of complexity and adds more thought to my decisions in what warriors do I send,
and we do like the complexity in those,
right? Yeah. So yes, it fixes the luckiness of it to some degree, but I still like the base game as it is,
right?
Yeah. So
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
but. When a game is sitting on my shelf and I look at it, I'm just like, I don't want to play it because I know I'm going to lose. So until that expansion comes out, that's a problem.
So here's the thing. So for something like that, you would house rule, for example, and a house rule would be you get one free reroll no matter what instead of using those horns, right?
Sure.
So that would be a house rule. Say in one household, they'll be like, okay, for this game, you get one free reroll no matter what for each battle. And that would be the rule for that game. So that's something that you would implement, and everybody agrees at the table that they might enjoy that game more because they're mitigating that luck for the entirety of the game.
Yeah. So do we agree then that small adjustments that tweak the game slightly to your favor are the best kinds of house rules compared to like a rewrite? like Dark Souls had.
There is a limit, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think everybody at the table is more likely to agree on a small tweak as opposed to a major fundamental change.
Correct. So that's, for example, that Midgar example, that's one small change to the rule. You're not changing the game fundamentals. You're just kind of making it a little bit more favorable for you to perhaps not fail at dice rolls.
Especially if you're playing with a younger crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could, that would be an example. If I was playing with my daughter and bring her to board gaming, she's not going to have a good time if she keeps feeling it. Though. So I'll give her, hey, you can re-roll the dice twice, and she might enjoy the game a little bit more. And so for things like that, that's a good point.
Ultimately, if everyone at the table has a good time playing a game with me, they're going to want to play more games with me, which means I'm going to get to play more games.
There you go.
How's that bad?
That's true.
Whether I win or not is not important to me. It's whether everybody else has a good time and I have a good time too, because then they're going to want to play more games.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to shift things a little bit here.
Okay.
So how about leaving out certain things? And so the good example of this would be a game that has like a deck of random event cards.
Yeah.
That is not part of the main mechanism of getting through the game, right? It's not like a campaign where you have to get through these scenarios.
Yeah.
But it's like, here's a bunch of random cards. You're going to draw one each round.
Yeah.
But some of them are objectively worse than others.
Yeah.
And my example here is... so a friend of mine, Ryan Eiler, designed Quad Heroes.
Right.
And we helped him through a lot of the testing phase. He recently very successfully kickstarted a second edition of his game. And, I mean, it's a wild, fun, very neat game.
Right.
But there were some event cards in there that were straight up bad, I have to say.
Certain individuals apparently tore up.
And famously, if you watch Tom Vassell, the Dice Tower's review of Quad Heroes, the first printing, he tore this one card up on screen. He said, "I love the game, like I approve it, but
this card is gone.
But this card is gone because some of these events are
nasty,
or not nasty, but just unfun." And the one he ripped up, by the way, just for some background, basically it was like you had your personal things with items, and you got a pet, and you got cool gadgets and stuff. The event card was take all of your stuff and pass it to the player in your left.
No.
It was like take everything you have, and pass it over.
Yeah, not doing that.
That's tough.
Yeah.
No, that's 100% something I would house rule out.
You can house rule, and then that makes the game more fun.
That would be easy too, because then you just remove it.
I have another example. Raiders of the North Sea is a game that's been re-implemented by Raiders of Scythia. It combines a couple expansions. It takes away the take that cards from Raiders of the North Sea. So that's one house rule I think we played with in Raiders. We manually kind of just went out and took out those take that cards, which are included in Raiders of the North Sea, which we don't like to play with take that because it's not
to our taste.
It's not to our taste.
Arc Nova, they built into the game, into the cards themselves, the attack cards. Have a
Arc Nova has attack cards?
Yeah, the red and yellow symbols.
The snake cards, or what are those?
Oh yes, the Venom ones.
The Venom ones,
right? Because they basically you can choose to not play with it.
Not do that.
Or I think there's like I think you can choose the solo to all play with the solo option or something.
Yeah, something like that. There's a way to modify the deck to not play or to mitigate the take that elements.
Yeah, but not remove the cards, but
just not do that.
Flip the mechanics slightly so that you don't have to play with it.
So I like that, and that's another thing that designers have started to do more of, and I encourage more designers to do this, is put in variants at the back of the game for folks that enjoy different tastes in games. So folks like us that don't enjoy, too much take that in games, if there's a variant at the back, hey, if you guys don't like take that, play with this variant
take that out.
But at the same time, or tell us the best way to play.
Or tell us the best way.
Don't give us 100 different ways to play the game. Tell us the best one, but then you could say we know a lot of players dislike take that.
Here's a variant that takes that.
Leave out or like here are 4 different decks to choose from.
Yeah.
Choose 2. By the way, number 4 is
more take that.
Is take that or something. Or something like that,
the thing going back to the a deck of random event cards, I think one of the main problems with random event cards in particular is that you have no way to really mitigate against them because you don't know what's coming, right? So you can't plan for them. I haven't played this game, but a recent game that came out, Dark Knight game, like the solo or to two
The
player
Batman game, yeah.
the one that you go through the comic book, the Dark Knight Returns or whatever it's called. It's called the Dark Knight Returns, something like that. In that game, you get to choose what cards make up the event deck every round.
Oh, cool. So
then you know what's coming. You just don't know the order, so you can kind of plan for them a little bit. I think that's really smart.
That's
but just random events that just come up and you can't do anything about, and you're like, oh, well, I just built up my entire supply. Oh, by the way, it's all gone.
Especially when they're penalized, really penalized.
Yeah, that's not fun. And that I would 100% house rule that deck out of the game.
Yeah, or pick and choose the best event cards
exactly.
and leave out the especially unbalanced or nasty ones.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump over to some examples of house rules that either we play with as our group, or we've seen played with that we would recommend, maybe from like our families or from board gaming, other board game groups.
Yeah.
What do you guys got?
I got nothing. Top of my head, I don't know.
Pure board gaming.
Okay, well, I got a couple.
You go.
I can go first while you think of some. Yeah. So I've implemented several house rules in several of my games because I'm in favor for them in general. So like Dark Souls, we talked about a lot.
That, yeah.
I house ruled that, so you stack the item deck the way you want. You increase the number of souls you get.
Yeah. So what else you got?
So there's that one. Also, my wife loves Take to Ride.
Yeah.
I like it fine. So one thing we've done to make the game a bit speedier and a bit, more exciting is, instead of taking one action per turn, you can take two actions per turn. So you can take 2 cards and claim a route, or you can claim 2 routes, or you can take 4 cards. It speeds the game up a little bit, and it just makes you feel like you're doing more on your turn.
Yeah.
So there's that one. I really enjoy playing it that way. And it's not really a huge change, It's not really a huge change.
No, and if you're both doing it...
If you're both doing it,
it balances out,
right? Yeah. The other one that I have house ruled, as you said, the snot out of, is Dragonfire.
Oh, okay. That's another challenging
D&D themed deck builder. Speaking of first intro scenarios, that intro scenario, I'm 100% sure it's designed to not be winnable.
Oh, yeah.
Because enemies spawn every turn, and you can't do anything about it. So, anyways, I did not really enjoy that. That was not a good first impression of that game.
No.
And that game is notorious for having a really, really slow, grindy progression system. So, you kind of have to implement a more fail-forward philosophy, and you have to get a lot more experience every time you play, to the point where, instead of gaining 1 experience for playing a 2-hour game, where you need 5 experience to level up, I'll say everybody gets to get 1 level up every time you play.
Yeah.
Because realistically, we've got so many games, I'm not gonna play that game 30 times.
No, we got too many games to play a single game that often.
So here's a classic one.
What do you got?
Uno.
Dos.
Okay.
Tres. No.
And everyone famously plays this rule wrong.
Yeah.
But I think it actually makes the game better. And I remember growing up, we would always play with stacking multipliers.
Right.
Whereas you're not supposed to stack a +4 on top of a +2.
Right.
Kind of thing, because it could end up possibly breaking the game.
Yeah.
By doing that. But we all did it as kids. Technically we got the rule wrong, but giving someone +4 and then and then getting nailed back with +6 afterwards or something was take that and +6. Oh yeah, I want +8.
+8, yeah.
And of course it totally broke the game, but I think it made it more fun.
That's the end goal, as long as everybody's having fun.
Right. So another example I have is from our board gaming meetup when Codenames first came out. We found that either some players were getting maybe a little bit distracted, or just didn't quite grasp the game too much, or just felt that it was maybe easier this way, and they would just go back and forth with, this word won, that word won, this word won, and the game just became boring because
this is one back and forth,
bounce back and forth. And the game would just kind of pace itself like that, and nothing would hardly go anywhere. So we implemented a rule where you have to give a clue that pertains to at least 2 words,
minimum of 2,
until the final word, obviously.
Yeah.
But this way, when you get down to those 2 final words, and it's shoe and ukulele or something, and you're like, how am I going to connect these 2? It makes the game more fun, a little more risky. It makes people think a little harder when it's their turn to.
That is a really good house rule.
Give the clues.
Yeah. We play a lot of Codenames in our house.
And I have seen that with newer players, it's like harder for them to grasp when they go 1-1.
I've never quite had that experience where it's like 1-1-1-1-1-1-1, but I can see how that would be very boring. And it takes take the tension out of the game, you know? So I think I like that rule a lot.
And a small plug, by the way, I just played Codenames Duet with Shannon.
Right.
And I'm trying to get her to play it forever. She loves the base game as a party game with friends.
Right.
But I finally got her to sit down and try the actual 2-player game.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you could play 2 teams, but it's cooperative.
Sure.
And it worked really well. We have some pictures on the Cardboard Man Instagram channel.
Nice.
I post pictures almost daily up on there if you want to take a look. But we kept the house rule for Duet as well. And it worked well. I think you have to, and because of the timing...
There's a time limit, right?
There's a time limit of how many clues you can do. You are actually required to give...
You need to give bigger clues,
Bigger clues at a time. Mm-hmm. So it kind of fixes itself.
Yeah. That's a really good rule. I like that.
I like that a lot. So I'll go... For me, as you guys were talking, I thought about another one. Again, it's an LCG, which we brought up Champions, we brought up Lord of the Rings. So I'm going to bring up that. As Bill plugs his ears because he don't want us to invest in it.
I'm trying not to buy any LCGs.
Don't do it. Just play our copies.
It's a slippery slope.
Arkham Horror LCG, which I think might be the best of the 3. I mean, it's close with Champions, but I really like Arkham. And I've only played it solo, single-handed, and so it's a house rule, but it's something I do for my own enjoyment because it's a campaign, so you play all 7, 8 scenarios in the campaign. You get one of those bad, so it's to do skill tests, you have to pull out from a token from a bag. It's a -2 to an auto fail to a -6 to a +1 to a plus. So it could be good to bad.
-6.
It could. There's some scenarios where it's you could get some nasty skill checks. All right. So you pull that -6 or you pull that auto fail on a really critical scenario. Sometimes you need to and you're like almost near the end of that scenario. No one's watching. You're in the room by yourself. You're playing. That auto check goes back in the box.
Is that a house rule?
It's like
a free
it's a free mulligan. Yeah, it's a free mulligan. But
that probably works better for solo.
Yeah, it's not something you can do.
I mean, you're not. I would do it yourself.
And I would never.
I have that.
I would never say anything bad about a solo player who. They just by themselves having fun, and they want to cheat a little bit. So I've got to give myself like one mulligan per game. It's like, okay, you pull the one, it goes back in. And to a limit. Otherwise, the win still feel genuine.
It doesn't feel genuine, and that's what I was going to earlier. Is like you want to house rules to a point, but not to that where it changes the intent and the skill of the game.
Where it devalues the win.
Yeah. So along the same lines, Seventh Continent is a giant scenario kind of based game where you are given some sort of curse and you're sent onto this mysterious island to relieve yourself of this curse. And there's multiple curses to choose from, but the island is huge. Like you could spread it out and it would fill this room in terms of just the size of the island. Like there's a couple thousand cards worth once they're all laid out. So it's giant, but by the time you get through or maybe like near the end of a scenario and you've been playing for 16 hours or 14 hours or whatever, and you die,
you have to start over again, right?
You have to start over from the start.
You have to start over again.
So,
come on.
Like they do allow you like you can choose to play from the start of the game on kind of the easy mode where it kind of punishes you a little bit, and then you still keep playing.
Yeah.
And I think more than once maybe we've like started on normal mode and then hit that mark where we died and it was just like, I'm just gonna like pause the game and change it to the easy mode and then keep going because I don't want to start over when I'm this close to getting through the story.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Mm-hmm. So that's. I mean, if you do stuff like that, I don't think it hurts anybody. You're having fun. So go.
Yeah, as long as everybody in your group agrees. And are having fun. Go ahead and host.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you feel bad about a game not working, get rid of it. There are more games out there.
Here's another question that just popped into my head.
Okay.
This might be a question for another video.
All right.
But,
So we'll drop a teaser now. Go ahead.
But when teaching new players,
Yes.
would you teach them with your house rules, or would you teach them rules as written?
Ooh.
That's tricky because the number of times I've been taught a game wrong, like not house rule, but wrong.
Wrong, yeah.
And then perpetuated that knowledge because I was hosting a
further teaches,
a meetup, right? Someone taught me a game, and now I've taught it to 20 more people, and they're all teaching it wrong to other people, and then eventually it caught up that, hey, someone says, wait a minute, you've been doing it wrong the whole time. And I've been teaching it wrong the whole time. That happened with Istanbul.
With which one?
Istanbul.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we probably taught to like 20, 40 people over like a year and a half.
Wow.
All teaching it wrong.
Teaching it wrong. Until
pyramid.
we have to go back and tell everybody.
So you're saying is you would teach them rules as written, so they don't teach anybody else incorrectly.
No, so here's what I would do.
So they buy the box. When they buy the box because they love the game, they don't read the rules and play and say,
that's wrong.
This is the wrong experience.
So what I would do is I would teach them the rules as written, but I would say, hey, listen, I'm changing this one aspect of the game just because it's going to, for this reason, because it's going to, if we play it at like the original way, it's not going to be as fun or it's going to be harder. So since we're learning, we're going to change this. But just so you know that the rule is as written is actually this, but we're changing it. So this is going to make it clear to them, so that when they go on forward, or if they play it again, they enjoy the game, they buy their own copy, they know what the original rule is, and they can choose to play with the original rule or the way we played it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just make it clear.
Just make it clear.
Yeah, make sure everyone's aware of what you're doing and is okay with that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I would do.
I think that pretty much sums it up for us. Again, let us know in the comments what some of your favorite house rules are. If there's any you would recommend to us for any of the games you've seen us play. We're definitely up to trying house rules as long as they're not rewriting the entire rules to a game. And thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
See ya.